Everybody good? So next we're gonna move on to J. May. Like I said before, big part of my career. I mean, I can't say, on the level of spiritual level, fashion, everything. This is that dude. So without further ado, my man Jay.
I gotta take a picture of everybody in here. So say peace to my mom real quick. All right, peace to my mom. Y'all go ahead. She needs to see this because otherwise she's like, yo, shoes? You still doing shoes? All right, appreciate y'all. So let me get into my story. So first, let me start by saying hello. All right. Have to acknowledge everybody's presence. So thank you for being here. Honestly, without you guys being here, I wouldn't have an actual job. So thank you. You support us. A lot of work on. Appreciate you. Let me go ahead, get from the old school to the new school. Right? Go from the movement to the dream. There it is. All right. So second piece. That's me. So there's evidence I had hair at some point. So if anybody has any questions about that before genetics kicked in. So my presentation is about what fuels me, which is curiosity. And so basically curiosity in this examination on inspiration, aspiration, and innovation. One of the core things that I do as a designer is I constantly ask why not. Most people think curiosity shows up as a why. I say why not. So often in our careers we're told what we can do, and I like to push back and say why not? Why can't I do that? Why can't I be the first at something? And so one of the things that also fuels me is the fact that I'm a middle child. So I came up with my own definition. How many people here have middle children? So you know the pain that I went through as a middle child. So the first piece, you can read along with me. A middle child is often ignored, left alone for long periods of time, blamed for everything, old enough to get in trouble but too young to know right from wrong. The second definition that I like to believe is true is creative, persuasive, artistic, athletic, loyal, and a natural born mitigator. So for me, I have to make sure that at the end of the day, I represent for the middle children. So anybody here that's a middle child, you understand my pain and why curiosity became my fuel. So the next piece, curiosity has allowed me to have multiple titles. The first one is a student. I went to undergrad at CCS in Detroit. I met a brother here earlier from Detroit.
Right here?
Yeah, so Detroit's my second home.
Detroit Dave, boy.
There it is.
YouTube.com.
No matter where you are in the world, that's what happens when you say Detroit. You can be in Germany, Detroit. What up, though? The next one, the curiosity led me to being Jordan's first design intern. And at the time, I was also Nike's first black intern for design. So this was 2001. So you can imagine that this industry wasn't flooded with a lot of opportunity for people like us because we didn't realize that the skills we develop in the city were transferable to corporate America. Everything we learn as hustlers and people who talk and use our mouth to get us into positive situations, that's what's happening in the boardroom. So I used that mouth hustle, as we call it in Chicago, and I got myself into an internship in Jordan Brand. Next one, I got myself into a situation as a designer with Jordan. So they brought me back as the first designer in this program called The Bench, where I worked on a hybrid of graphic design and industrial design. So I worked with the athlete named Michael Vick, who was here at one point, who's no longer here at this point, for reasons I will go unnamed. The next one, I became curious about a certain woman that was working in a certain store, and she became my wife, and I became my husband. And so curiosity led me to that situation, and then from there, we became curious about how our DNA would merge and what our children would look like. And then we became curious again, and we had 2 children, so that allowed me to become a father. Then curiosity led me to Stanford as what's called a Sloan Fellow. So I went and left Nike and went back to business school because I wanted to understand the things that impacted my career, the things that made me make decisions, or the people who make decisions on my behalf without my voice in the room. So a lot of people think there's no actual commonality between design and business, but it is, because the business impacts what we do. It supports what we do. So at the end of the day, you have to know both sides of that coin. The next piece is I came back from Stanford and I worked in a group called Digital Sport as an innovation director. We worked on a product called the Fuel Band. And the reason we worked on that product is because we decided that everyone from 8 to 88 should be allowed to be an athlete. And at Nike, when we're an athlete, we mean that you have a body and you can move and you can use it and you can be all you can be. And then from there, with GMO, I came back to Jordan Brand as the global senior design director. So I oversee everything from footwear to innovation, to business strategy, to technology, to analytics. So my suite of experiences have allowed me to have a very diverse and robust program in terms of what design could be today. So design isn't limited to products and physical items. It's expanded now to the way that we think, to our process, to storytelling. So anybody in here who thinks because you can't draw, you can't be a designer, that's not the truth. Creativity and curiosity are the 2 founding foundational principles of being a designer, and you have to use those to empower your process, because that's what makes you everlasting, is having a core process. Not just drawing pictures, but designing products and being curious.
That's Stanford coming out. I hate it.
Hey man, it's there, it's there. Ain't nothing wrong with that. I'm not gonna talk down to y'all. I think I'm gonna bring y'all back up. And so the last piece is curiosity. I'm here to talk about curiosity, what it's done for me as a man. And so I have 3 key lessons that I want to leave with you guys, and I'll get into that right now. So the 3 lessons of curiosity is: 1, curiosity allows you to become a catalyst. The next one is curiosity allows you to dream out loud. And the last one is curiosity allows you to disrupt convention. So I'll get into the first example of what that means.
Yeah, who are you? Say, why you let those boys push you around like that for? Well, they're bigger than me. Stand tall, boy. Have some respect for yourself. Don't you know if you let people walk over you now, they'll be walking over you for the rest of your life? Look at me. You think I'm going to spend the rest of my life in this slop house? Watch it, Goldie. No, sir. I'm going to make something of myself. I'm going to night school, and one day I'm going to be somebody. That's right. He's going to be mayor. Yeah, mayor. Now, that's a good idea. I could run for mayor.
A colored mayor, that'll be the day.
You wait and see, Mr. Carruthers. I will be mayor. I'll be the most powerful man in Hill Valley, and I'm going to clean up this town.
Good. You can start by sweeping the floor.
Man, Goldie Wilson. Like the sound of that.
All right, so we came a long way from a colored mayor to a colored president, so I think we're doing pretty good based on this clip. So one of the key things that this clip demonstrates is that you can become a catalyst. When Marty McFly acknowledged Mayor Goldie Wilson's presence, he first unlocked this little notion that he could be more than just the person that sweeps the floors. So for me, how that showed up in my life was that my sister used to play these games with me. I have a younger sister, she's 3 years younger than myself. And she would come into the bedroom at night and she'll say, hey, let's play this game. Unfortunately, this game was called cappuccino. Her recipe for cappuccino was 3 parts dirt and 1 part water. So you can imagine that my health was in jeopardy trying to allow my sister to dream and be curious. But had I not listened to her, had I not allowed her to dream, and had I not used her curiosity and my curiosity as a catalyst, she would never be where she is today. And she's an improv comedian. She works in Second City. She's moved out to LA, and she's now living her dream. So when you guys are with each other, oftentimes we feel that creativity is a competition. But I push back on that. Creativity is a community, and you have to listen to what other people want to do and empower that. You have to be a catalyst for one another. You can't stand here and think that each of you are individuals. It's collective genius, not groupthink. So when you guys are sitting here and you're thinking, hey, you know what, I'm on my own thing, I'm going to be me. No. There's more power in we. So look around to your left, look around to your right, and make sure that you acknowledge another person's presence and ask them what they want to be. Ask them what they want to do, and then become a catalyst, because sometimes people squash their own dreams because they're afraid to talk about it. They're afraid to open up. They're afraid to be present in the moment. But once you sit and you become curious in another person, you can be a catalyst. Whether you want to be a rapper, a writer, a designer, or a producer, you first start by asking questions and allowing people into your dream and your journey, and then in turn being a catalyst for someone else. Make sense?
Makes sense, yeah.
All right. Second piece.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I don't know. You know, he'll probably be about as good as I was. That's kind of the way it works, you know. And I was below average. Yeah, so you'll probably ultimately rank somewhere around there, you know. So really, you'll excel at a lot of things, just not this. I don't want you out here shooting this ball around all day and night. All right?
All right.
All right? All right, go ahead. Somebody tell you you can't do something. dream, you gotta protect it. People can't do something themselves. They want to tell you you can't do it. You want something, go get it. Period.
All right. Yeah, y'all go ahead and cry. It's okay. Let it out. Let it out. Nobody's watching. Y'all looking at me, so the tears are flowing towards me. I'm not going to point you out. So the whole idea of dreaming out loud, if you have a dream, you have to protect it. Most times we're afraid to let people know what we want to be because we think it sounds ridiculous or ludicrous. So how that manifested in my life, when I was in the 2nd grade, I used to draw a lot, and I would finish my homework, and I would do this thing that I called networking, which was getting up from my desk and going to network with everybody else who wasn't finished with their homework. I heard my father say it once, I'm going to network at this event. Next thing I know, I'm networking with every 2nd grade girl across the south side of Chicago, and it got me in trouble. But one thing I did do was I didn't allow the challenges I had in school to stop me from dreaming out loud, so I would sit and I would draw. And one day I drew a picture of a rocket. So the rocket was on a t-shirt, and it was very, it was a vertical shape, and then I had 2 small smoke clouds that came from underneath. So if you can imagine what that shape looked like, I'm gonna paint that picture again one more time. Vertical rocket, 2 small, large smoke clouds underneath. At the same time, the picture of this young boy had his finger up in the air. Because I felt, at the time I was understanding the concept of what it meant to be number one. And I felt like if I want to be the best shoe designer, best artist in the world, I want to be number one. But I didn't realize that the hand had 5 fingers and not 4. And I drew the wrong finger as number 1. So in combination with this rocket and this number 1, and combined with the network, and my teacher pulled me aside and she asked me, what is this all about? And I told her, well, ma'am, I want to go to the Air Force with my brother, and I want to draw shoes, I want to be a sneaker designer. And she told me, well, you can't do that. No one does that. Engineers do that. And I refused to listen to that. And I said, well, why not? She said, well, I don't know anybody who does that, so how can you do it? And so for me, I kept that as my fuel, because most things in life seem impossible until one person dares to challenge that and they do it first. And then impossible things become possible. So me growing up on the south side in the Wild Wild Hundreds, this man Dre knows exactly where I grew up at. We went to high school together coincidentally. A lot of times you're told what you can't be. A lot of times they tell you why. But at a very early age, I decided that I was going to always say, why not? And I would get in trouble a lot when people say, well, you can't do that. And I say, well, why not? Well, because. And no one can give me a great explanation of why a young black boy from the south side of Chicago can grow up to be a shoe designer. Because someone hadn't seen it. So for them, my dream wasn't possible. But I took that as fuel. And I took the impossible and made it possible. Because I allowed myself to tell people. So when you're in this room today, stop us, talk to us, ask us, hey, how did you get to where you're at? Tell us your dream. If we don't know someone who can help you, or if we can't help you, we'll point you in the right direction. There may be somebody in this room who can help you with your dream. But you have to be vocal about it. You have to let people know what you want to do. Don't be afraid, because the world may think it's ridiculous, but you may be the first person to change something that's important to you and your community. So don't waste time sitting back in your room wishing that someone gave you a chance. Take your chance. Take the chance on letting people know what your dreams are. Because at the end of the day, without taking that first step, you're going to miss out on creating history and starting a legacy of excellence. And that's what we're here. I can't keep my job forever. I won't keep my job forever. I have to pass it to one of you. And hopefully one of you are willing to tell me your dream, and maybe I can prepare you to take my job someday. Fair point? Fair? Yeah. All right. The third point.
Jarvis, you there?
At your service, sir.
Gauge heads-up display.
Check.
4-door preferences from home interface.
Will do, sir.
All right, what do you say?
I have indeed been uploaded, sir. We're online and ready.
We start the virtual walk-around.
Importing preferences and calibrating virtual environment.
Do a check on control surfaces.
As you wish. Test complete. Parity power down and begin down. diagnostics?
Yeah, tell you what, do a weather and ATC check, start listening in on ground control.
So there are still terabytes of calculations needed before an actual flight is a
Jarvis, sometimes you gotta run before you can walk. Ready? In 3, 2, 1.
I don't know about you, man, but if I had the Mach 2 suit, man, it would be serious. Oh, man, listen. Show up at the club with that suit on, see what happens. Seriously, you pull up in that, forget a car, you pull up in that joker, that's serious. So one of the things people talk about with curiosity is curiosity killed the cat. The phrase that I like to use is curiosity disrupts convention. And what that simply means is by asking questions, you're able to be faster in the future. So a lot of times when we think about what we want to be and where we want to go, we're slow to move. But when you're curious and you're trying to challenge convention, you're trying to disrupt it and do something that's different, you have to develop muscles to take on tomorrow's challenges today. We can't wait until tomorrow to be where we want to be. You have to start by doing that today. And that comes through skill, that comes through process and repetition. It comes through running before you walk. People think that success is a slow journey. No, sometimes it's running smack dab into the wall and failing fast. Learning from failure. Embracing it, not being fearful of failure, because we think that failure is real. It's not real. It's only real to the people who see it. It's only real to the people who are worried about what other folks think of them. But once you realize that failure is a stepping stone towards greatness, you embrace it and you use that as fuel to move forward to be faster in the future. And that's what I do in my career. I don't worry about failure. I use failure as a learning tool. I use failure as motivation. Because the world may laugh at me trying to do something. The world may laugh at, the 2009 Jordan, but it got us to the flight plate. But I had to be the first person to be daring to try to focus on propulsion, to try to do something different, to try to push the boundaries and disrupt convention. Because it's my personal journey, and I empower and I encourage all of you guys to be faster in the future. Don't worry about failure. Fail fast and fail often, and learn from failure. Because the people that are afraid of failure are people that never become great. The people that become great and become important and become memorable, they fail and they fail often. And they let people know about their failures. They're not afraid of it. They embrace it, and they're fearless. So I encourage all of you to be fearless today. Tell each other what you want to be. Don't be afraid if someone laughs. And if they laugh, use that as fuel and motivation. And if they don't understand it, it's not meant for them to understand. Because greatness often doesn't show up in a form that's recognizable. Greatness shows up in the most simple ways. It shows up in a pat on the back. It shows up in a motivational speech. It shows up in a product. But once you guys tap into that greatness, you can become fearless. Fair point? All right. So the 3 lessons in recap. So this is where the Stanford comes out. So get your recap. All right, get your recap, brother. Become a catalyst. Dare to dream out loud. And disrupt convention. Thank y'all.